The argument had lasted 3 days, and everyone in the convergence station was exhausted. Dozens of alien species filled the massive diplomatic hall, their translators buzzing and clicking as they debated territory rights. The humans wanted 3 planets. The Drylin Empire wanted the same 3 planets. Neither side would back down. Elder Speaker Wynn raised his crystalline hand and silence fell across the chamber. The ancient being glowed softly, his transparent body reflecting light like a living diamond. He had overseen disputes for 200 years and his patience was legendary. But even legends had limits. "Enough," Wynn said, his voice carrying through every translator in the room. "We invoke the trial of beasts." A ripple of shock moved through the gathered species. The Chitresh delegates clicked their mandibles nervously. The Benthian ambassador's skin shifted from blue to worried purple. Even the humans looked surprised. Warlord Rook stood up from the Drylin section, his massive frame casting shadows across smaller delegates. His red scales caught the light and his yellow eyes gleamed with satisfaction. He had been hoping for this. The Drylin had never lost a trial. "We accept," Rook announced, his voice deep and confident. "We will bring our champion within the hour." All eyes turned to the human section. There were only 2 humans present. Commander Beth Harris sat calmly in her chair, wearing a simple gray uniform with Earth's flag on the shoulder. Beside her, Dr. Alan Price fidgeted with his datapad, looking considerably less calm than his commander. Beth stood slowly. She was average height for a human, with dark skin and short black hair streaked with gray. Nothing about her appearance seemed particularly impressive compared to the 7-foot Warlord, or the insectoid Chitresh with their razor-sharp limbs. "Could you explain the rules?" Beth asked politely. "This is our first trial." Rook laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. Several other delegates joined him. The humans were new to galactic politics, barely 50 years into their first contact. They knew nothing of traditions. Elder Wynn's expression remained neutral. The trial of beasts is ancient. Each side brings their world's apex predator. The creatures face each other in the arena. The winner's species gains the disputed territory. It is honorable combat decided by nature rather than weapons or fleets. "I see," Beth said. She seemed to be thinking. "And we have how long to present our creature?" "Standard protocol allows 6 hours, Wynn replied. "I'll need 3, Beth said. "Our ship is parked on the outer ring. I'll have to go get him." "Him?" Rook laughed again. "You already know which beast you'll bring. You haven't seen our champion yet." Beth smiled slightly. "I don't need to. I know exactly who to bring." She walked toward the exit, her boots making soft sounds on the polished floor. Alan scrambled to follow her, his datapad nearly slipping from his hands. The moment the humans left, the chamber erupted into conversation. The Chitresh ambassador leaned toward his Benthian neighbor. "What do you think they'll bring?" he asked, his translator making his clicking speech understandable. The Benthian's color shifted to thoughtful green. "Their planet is listed as a Class 7 death world in our databases. They have many apex predators." "Perhaps the great cats?" "The bears? Their ocean predators are particularly terrifying. I accessed their public database last year." A Lumen delegate chimed in, her crystalline body chiming musically as she moved. "They have creatures called crocodiles that can go months without food and bite with enough force to crush bone. And their orcas hunt in coordinated packs with problem-solving intelligence." Rook listened to this with growing confidence. It doesn't matter what they bring. No Deathworld predator can match a venom spine. As if on cue, the arena doors opened. 6 Drylin warriors entered, carrying a massive reinforced container. The container was 40 feet long and required anti-gravity supports. Something moved inside and the entire structure shuddered. The delegates nearest the arena moved back instinctively. "Behold," Rook announced, pressing a control. The container's walls became transparent. Inside was a creature from nightmares. The venom spine was serpentine, covered in overlapping black scales that seemed to absorb light. It was easily 40 feet long and as thick as a tree trunk. Its head was wedge-shaped with rows of crystalline teeth and hollow fangs that dripped with yellowish venom. The venom hissed where it hit the container floor, eating small holes in the reinforced metal. "The venom spine is our world's perfect hunter," Rook explained, his voice full of pride. "Its venom can dissolve most known materials. It can survive in vacuum for short periods. It has crushed armored vehicles in its coils. 3 of these creatures once held off an entire invasion force for 2 days. The elder speaker observed the creature carefully. Impressive. It will be recorded as your champion. Hours passed. Other species began placing bets. The odds heavily favored the Dralin. Some delegates suggested the humans might forfeit rather than watch their creature die in the arena. Finally, Beth returned. She was pushing a simple cargo loader, and on it sat a container. This container was much smaller, only about 4 feet long and 2 feet high. It had breathing holes and environmental controls, but looked almost primitive compared to the Dralin's sophisticated transport. Rook stared at it, then at Beth. This is your champion? This is his travel carrier, Beth corrected. He gets cranky in small spaces for too long. He? Rook leaned closer. Through the carrier's mesh door, he could see something small and gray-black. It looked furry. It looked harmless. Rook threw his head back and laughed. The sound echoed through the chamber. You brought a pet? A small fur creature? Other delegates craned their necks to see. Confusion spread through the room. The Chitresh ambassador's translator captured his words. Perhaps it has venom? Neurotoxins? Alan spoke up nervously. Actually, they have some resistance to venom, but that's not really their primary. Beth held up a hand, cutting him off gently. Let's save the explanations for the arena. Elder Wynn studied the small container with ancient, curious eyes. Commander Harris, I must ask, are you certain about this choice? You may select a different creature if you wish. There is no shame in reconsidering. Beth met his gaze steadily. I'm certain. This is exactly who needs to be here. Very well, Wynn said, though he sounded doubtful. The trial will commence in 1 hour. Both champions will be released in the arena simultaneously. The trial ends when one creature retreats or cannot continue. Lethal force is permitted. Do both sides understand? Understood, Rook said confidently. Understood, Beth agreed calmly. As the delegates filed toward the observation platform surrounding the arena, Beth knelt beside the carrier. Through the mesh, 2 small dark eyes stared back at her. Just be yourself, Bitey, she whispered. That's all you need to do. From inside the carrier came a low, growling chatter. It didn't sound scared. It sounded annoyed at being confined. Alan stood beside Beth, double-checking his recording equipment. You know they all think we're insane, right? Beth smiled. They'll understand soon enough. The arena lights came on, bright and clinical. The floor was reinforced steel, scarred from previous trials. The observation platforms filled with curious delegates, all wanting to see what they expected to be the shortest trial in history. Beth picked up the carrier and walked toward the arena entrance. Behind her, 6 Dralin warriors struggled with their massive container. Warlord Rook stood at the arena's edge, arms crossed, victory already certain in his mind. Beth set down the carrier and placed her hand on the release latch. The trial was about to begin. Beth Harris remembered the day she found Bitey. It was 7 years ago back on Earth, long before she ever imagined becoming a diplomatic commander. She had been working at a wildlife rehabilitation center in South Africa, treating injured animals and releasing them back to the wild. Bitey had arrived as a juvenile, caught in illegal snares, malnourished and aggressive. The veterinary team wanted to sedate him for treatment, but Beth had insisted on a different approach. She spent 3 days earning his trust, speaking softly, moving slowly, offering food. Eventually, the small creature allowed her to treat his wounds. When they released him months later, he had simply sat at the edge of the enclosure, staring at her with those dark, intelligent eyes. Then he waddled off into the bush without looking back. That was a honey badger's way. No sentimentality, no attachment. Pure practical survival. She never expected to see him again. But when the diplomatic service recruited her, specifically for her animal behavior expertise, and when she learned about the trial of beasts tradition, she knew exactly what to do. It took 2 months to track Bitey down and another month to convince him that the travel carrier wasn't a threat. Now, standing in the observation deck of the arena, Beth watched the massive venom spine coil in the center of the floor. The creature was magnificent in a terrifying way. Its scales reflected the arena lights like black mirrors. Venom dripped constantly from its fangs, eating small smoking holes in the steel floor. Beside her, Alan was reviewing footage on his datapad. Research footage from Earth, showing honey badgers in their natural habitat. Maybe we should explain before the trial starts, Alan suggested nervously. Show them the videos. Let them understand what they're seeing. No, Beth said calmly. Let them see it firsthand. Explanations mean nothing without context. In the arena below, Warlord Rook stood near his creature, one hand resting on the transparent container. He looked up at the human observation platform and smiled, showing rows of pointed teeth. Throughout the station, aliens gathered to watch. The trial was being broadcast to ships and outposts across 3 systems. Everyone wanted to see the new species humiliate themselves. It would make excellent entertainment. The Chitresh ambassador sat in the front row of the observation deck, his compound eyes focused on both containers. I've been researching human fauna, he announced to nearby delegates. Their planet is remarkable. Apex predators on every continent, in their oceans, even in their skies. Then why bring such a small creature? A Lumen delegate asked, her crystalline form humming with confusion. Perhaps it's venomous, suggested a Benthian. Many small Earth creatures carry neurotoxins. They're spiders, they're scorpions, they're snakes. I checked their database entry for this creature, the Chitresh said, pulling up a holographic display. It's called a honey badger. Scientific name Mellivora capensis. Weight approximately 12 kilograms. Length under 1 meter. Diet listed as opportunistic carnivore. 12 kilograms? Another delegate laughed. The venom spine weighs 3,000 kilograms. This isn't a trial. It's an execution. Elder Wynn observed silently from his elevated platform. His ancient eyes missed nothing. He noticed that Commander Harris showed no signs of nervousness. No fear, no regret. She simply watched the arena with calm patience. That bothered him more than if she had been panicking. Below, the arena preparation completed. The Draylen warriors secured their container at one end of the space. Beth carried her small carrier to the opposite end. The distance between them was approximately 50 meters. A holographic display appeared above the arena, visible to all observers. It showed both creatures on scanning displays. The venom spine's vital signs pulsed strong and aggressive. The honey badger's readings showed an elevated heart rate but nothing concerning. Rook's voice boomed through the arena speakers. Humans, I offer you one final chance to forfeit. There is no shame in recognizing superior strength. We can negotiate terms that are still favorable to you. Beth didn't even look at him. She was checking the carrier's latch, making sure it would open smoothly. We're good, she called back. Let's begin. Elder Wynn's voice echoed through the space. The trial of beasts will now commence. Champions will be released simultaneously. The trial concludes when one creature retreats beyond the arena boundaries or becomes unable to continue. All attending species bear witness. Release your champions. The Draylen warriors pressed controls. The massive container's walls folded down with hydraulic hisses. The venom spine slithered forward, its scales scraping against steel with sounds like knives sharpening. It raised its wedge-shaped head, tongue flickering, tasting the air. Beth opened her carrier's door and stepped back. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a small, stocky creature waddled out. It was gray-black, with a distinctive white stripe running from its head down its back. Its legs were short and powerful. Its claws clicked on the steel floor. It had small rounded ears and a pointed snout. It looked like somebody's escaped pet. The observation deck erupted in confused murmuring. Several delegates actually laughed. This is the human's champion? Rook said, his voice dripping with disbelief. This tiny fur creature? Bitey stood in the open arena, looking around with casual interest. He scratched himself with a hind leg. He sniffed the air. He seemed completely unimpressed by his surroundings. The venom spine noticed him immediately. Its head swiveled, focusing on the small mammal. Its tongue flickered faster, analyzing the potential prey. Beth pulled out her own datapad and began recording. Alan stood beside her, his hands gripping the railing. Should we tell them? Alan whispered urgently. About the skin? The resistance? The temperament? Watch, Beth said simply. The venom spine began moving. It was surprisingly fast for its size, closing the distance with fluid grace. 40 feet of pure predator. Scales rippling, venom dripping, moving with the confidence of a creature that had never faced defeat. Bitey noticed the approaching serpent. He stopped scratching, his small eyes fixed on the massive creature bearing down on him. He didn't run, he didn't freeze. He stood his ground and made a sound, a low rattling growl that seemed impossibly loud for his size. Is that a threat display? a Benthian delegate asked, confused. The venom spine was 20 feet away. 15, 10. Then it struck. The attack was blindingly fast. The serpent's head shot forward like a released spring. Its fangs, each as long as a human finger, sank into the honey badger's shoulder. Venom pumped through hollow channels, yellow and hissing. The jaws clenched tight. The observation deck went silent. Rook smiled triumphantly. It's over. The venom spine began to coil around the small creature, preparing to crush whatever the venom didn't kill. Standard hunting technique. The trial would end in seconds. But Beth wasn't watching the venom spine. She was watching Bitey, the honey badger twisted in the serpent's grip. His loose skin, designed by millions of years of evolution, allowed him to turn even while being held. His powerful jaws clamped onto the venom spine's neck just behind the head. The serpent recoiled, trying to shake him off. But Bitey held on. His teeth, designed to crack bones and tear through tough hides, began to work. Wait, the Chitresh ambassador said, leaning forward. The venom should be taking effect. Beth finally spoke, her voice calm and educational. Honey badgers have significant resistance to various venoms. Snake venom, bee venom, scorpion venom. It's an evolutionary adaptation. They raid beehives and hunt venomous snakes regularly. But the coiling pressure, Rook said, his confidence wavering. The crushing force? The skin is too loose, Beth explained. See how it moves independently from the muscle beneath. Predators can't get a good grip. The bites slide off or can't penetrate deeply enough to cause major damage. In the arena, the venom spine was thrashing now, trying desperately to dislodge the small creature attached to its neck. But Bitey held on with stubborn determination. Claws dug in, jaws locked. Alan pulled up video footage on his datapad, projecting it onto the observation deck's main screen. It showed honey badgers in the wild, fighting off lions, raiding beehives while being stung thousands of times, hunting porcupines despite the quills, tearing through wooden structures, digging through concrete. The honey badger, Beth continued in the same calm tone, is widely considered one of the most fearless creatures on Earth. They don't evaluate threat levels the way other species do. Size doesn't intimidate them. Venom doesn't deter them. Pain doesn't stop them. The venom spine managed to throw Bitey off. The honey badger tumbled across the arena floor, rolled, and immediately got back up. The delegates watched in stunned silence as the small creature charged directly back at the massive serpent without hesitation. That's not possible, Rook said quietly. That's not natural behavior. Beth looked at him directly. Warlord, this is completely natural behavior. This is just what honey badgers do. The venom spine struck again, but this time Bitey was ready. He dodged with surprising agility and went for the serpent's eyes. The observation deck had gone from loud chatter to absolute silence. Every eye, compound, crystalline, or otherwise, was fixed on the arena floor below. Bitey had just done something that made no sense to any species present. The honey badger had charged directly at a creature 40 times his size, ignored the venom coursing through his bloodstream, and gone straight for the venom spine's most vulnerable points with surgical precision. The serpent recoiled, one eye bleeding from where sharp claws had found their mark. It tried to retreat, but Bitey pursued immediately. No hesitation, no evaluation of risk, just pure stubborn aggression. Stop the trial, someone called from the observation deck. The small creature will be killed. Beth didn't even glance up from her recording. The trial ends when one creature retreats beyond the boundary or cannot continue. Neither condition has been met. In the arena, the venom spine attempted a new strategy. It rose up, lifting its massive head high above the floor, trying to use height advantage. Then it struck downward with tremendous force. Fangs aimed to pin the honey badger to the steel floor. Bitey rolled aside at the last second. The serpent's fangs scraped metal with a screech that made several delegates flinch. Before the venom spine could recover, the honey badger was climbing up its body, using those powerful claws to grip between scales. It's climbing, Alan narrated unnecessarily, his voice filled with amazement. It's actually climbing the venom spine. The serpent thrashed violently, slamming its body against the arena floor, trying to dislodge its attacker. The impacts would have crushed most creatures. Bitey hung on, working his way toward the head, toward those vital areas that every predator instinctively protects. Rook grabbed the railing in front of him, his scaled knuckles turning pale. This isn't possible. The venom alone should have paralyzed it. The crushing force should have broken bones. Beth pulled up more footage on the shared display. This video showed a honey badger being bitten by a cobra. The creature stumbled, appeared drowsy, then actually lay down and seemed to sleep for several hours. Then it simply woke up and resumed hunting. They don't have immunity, Beth explained, her voice carrying through the silent chamber. They have resistance and incredible recovery. The venom affects them, but their metabolism processes it differently. They can recover from bites that would kill creatures many times their size. Another video played. A honey badger fighting off 6 lions. The big cats couldn't get a proper grip because of that loose skin. Every bite slid off. Every claw strike failed to penetrate deeply enough. Their skin is approximately 6 millimeters thick, Alan added, reading from his research notes. And as the commander said, it's extremely loose. It's like trying to bite a creature wearing an oversized coat. You can't reach anything vital. The Chitresh ambassador's mandibles clicked rapidly. But the behavior, the complete lack of threat assessment, that's not intelligence. That's not survival instinct. Actually, Beth said, it's highly intelligent survival instinct. Honey badgers live in environments filled with apex predators. Lions, leopards, hyenas, all larger and stronger. If they ran from every threat, they'd starve. Instead, they evolved a different strategy. They fight everything, every time, with absolute commitment. On the screen, more videos played. A honey badger stealing a kill from a pride of lions, the same creature raiding a beehive, completely ignoring thousands of stinging bees. Another digging through a concrete wall to reach food. One attacking a full-grown buffalo. They have no quit, Beth continued. It's not about being too stupid to know when they're outmatched. It's about being too stubborn to care. In the arena, the venom spine was bleeding from multiple wounds now. Its movements were becoming desperate. It tried wrapping itself around structural pillars to scrape the honey badger off. It tried slamming against walls. Nothing worked. Bitey had reached the serpent's head. His jaws locked onto the base of the skull, exactly where the spine was most vulnerable. The venom spine made a sound, a high-pitched hiss of pain that its species probably never had to make before. It shook its head violently, but the honey badger's grip was absolute. Call it back, Rook said suddenly, turning to Beth. Call your creature back. Beth looked at him calmly. Why would I do that? Because mine is defeated. Everyone can see it. There's no need to continue. Call it back before it kills my champion. The rules state the trial ends when one creature retreats beyond the boundary or cannot continue, Beth said, repeating the exact wording. Your venom spine is still in the arena and still moving. The trial continues. The elder speaker, Wynn, leaned forward in his elevated seat. His crystalline eyes were fixed not on the arena but on Commander Harris. He was beginning to understand something. This wasn't about winning territory. This was about sending a message. The venom spine finally did what no creature from its species had ever done in thousands of years of evolution. It retreated. The massive serpent pulled away from the honey badger, moving backward toward its original container. Its movements were slow, pained, defensive. Bitey dropped to the floor and immediately charged again. No, 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 Rook said, his voice rising. It's retreating. The trial is over. It hasn't crossed the boundary line, Beth pointed out. The arena had clear red lines marking the edges. The venom spine was close but hadn't crossed them yet. The serpent tried one more attack, a desperate strike aimed at crushing its tiny opponent. Bitey dodged and countered by going for the throat again. His teeth found purchase. Blood that smoked slightly on contact with air began to flow. That was when the venom spine broke. The proud apex predator, champion of the Draylen Empire, crossed the boundary line in full retreat. It slithered into its container and coiled there, wounded and defeated. Bitey stood in the center of the arena, blood on his muzzle, some of it his own. He made that rattling growl again, challenging anything else to come fight. The elder speaker's voice filled the arena. The trial is concluded. The human champion has achieved victory. The disputed territories are granted to humanity. The observation deck erupted, not in cheers or boos, but in confused, almost frightened chatter. Delegates were pulling up every piece of information they could find about Earth, about human biology, about the ecosystem that could produce such a creature. Beth walked down to the arena floor. She approached Bitey slowly, speaking softly. The honey badger's aggressive posture relaxed slightly. He allowed her to approach. She produced a container of food from her pack, some kind of meat mixed with honey. Bitey accepted it calmly, eating while still watching the venom spine's container with suspicious eyes. Rook descended to the arena floor as well, moving toward his wounded champion. His warriors were already there with medical supplies treating the Serpent's wounds. The Warlord approached Beth, his expression unreadable. Up close he was even more imposing, towering over her by several feet. "What modifications did you make?" he demanded. "What genetic alterations? What cybernetic enhancements?" Beth looked up at him while scratching Bitey behind his small ears. The honey badger made a satisfied chattering sound. "None," she said simply. "This is baseline biology. This is how evolution made him." "That's impossible." "It's documented," Alan interjected, hurrying over with his datapad. "Every piece of data we have on honey badgers is publicly available. You can verify it all. No modifications, no enhancements. This is just what they are." Rook stared at the small creature, who stared back with dark, fearless eyes while chewing on honey-covered meat. "Your world produced this naturally?" Rook asked quietly. "Our world produces a lot of things naturally," Beth said. She stood up, dusting off her uniform. "Honey badgers aren't even in our top 20 most dangerous animals. They're classified as a medium-level threat. We have bigger predators, faster predators, stronger predators." The Chitresh ambassador had descended as well, his insectoid legs clicking on the steel floor. "Then why bring this creature? Why not your apex predators?" Beth smiled. "Because I could control this one. If I'd brought a polar bear or a saltwater crocodile, I'd need a team and heavy equipment. Bitey here just needs some food and the promise that he can go home afterward." She knelt down and began scanning the honey badger with a medical device, checking for serious injuries. Bitey tolerated the examination but kept watching everyone around him with clear suspicion. "Plus," Beth added, not looking up, "I thought it was important you understand something about humans. We survived on a planet where creatures like this are considered manageable problems. We built civilizations alongside predators that don't understand fear. We reached the stars from a world that was constantly trying to kill us." She finished her examination and stood. "Bitey's going to be fine. Some bruising, minor lacerations, but nothing serious. The venom will work through his system in a few hours." Elder Wynn had descended from his platform, a rare occurrence. He approached the human commander, his crystalline form refracting the arena lights into rainbow patterns. "Commander Harris," he said slowly, "I believe I understand the message you intended to send today." "And what message is that, Elder Speaker?" Beth asked. "That humanity should not be judged by appearances or size or initial impressions," Wynn said. "That you are survivors from a world that breeds resilience beyond what most species can comprehend." Beth picked up Bitey's carrier and opened it. The honey badger looked at her, then at the carrier, then back at her with clear annoyance. "That's part of it," she agreed, coaxing Bitey toward the carrier with another piece of food. "But there's something else. Every species in this galaxy seems to measure strength by how dangerous they can be. How intimidating, how violent. But surviving on a death world didn't make us the galaxy's best fighters." She finally got Bitey into the carrier and closed the latch gently. The honey badger settled in, already beginning to groom himself. "It made us the galaxy's best problem solvers," Beth finished. The medical bay of Convergence Station was designed to treat dozens of different species simultaneously. Draylen medics worked on the venom spine in a specialized section built for large creatures. The Serpent lay coiled on an elevated platform, while technicians cleaned wounds and administered healing compounds. Across the bay, Beth sat on a simple exam table with Bitey on her lap. A Benthian doctor, her skin a curious mixture of purple and green, scanned the honey badger with equipment designed for carbon-based life forms. "Remarkable," the doctor murmured, her voice soft and musical. "The tissue damage is minimal. The toxin readings show dangerous levels, but his liver is processing it efficiently. And these bite marks are already beginning to heal." "Accelerated healing is common in his species," Beth explained. "They need it given their lifestyle." Alan was nearby, downloading the scan data. Other delegates had followed them to the medical bay, curious and disturbed in equal measure. The Chitresh ambassador stood at a respectful distance, his compound eyes processing everything. "I've been reviewing your planetary database," the Chitresh said, his translator turning clicks into words. "Commander Harris, your world is terrifying." "It's home," Beth said simply, stroking Bitey's fur. The honey badger was calmer now, the adrenaline fading but still alert to his surroundings. "Your database lists megafauna that your ancestors hunted to extinction," the Chitresh continued. "Creatures called mammoths, saber-toothed cats, giant ground sloths, You evolved alongside predators that could kill you easily. Lots of things could kill us easily, Beth agreed. Still can. We're not particularly strong or fast by Earth standards. No natural weapons, no armor, no venom. But we figured out other ways to survive. The Benthian doctor finished her scans and stepped back. The creature is healthy. I recommend a high-protein meal and rest, but he should recover fully within a day. Thank you, doctor, Beth said. She prepared another food container for Bitey, who accepted it with his characteristic lack of sentiment. A Lumen delegate approached, her crystalline structure chiming softly with each movement. May I ask a question about human evolution? Of course, Beth said. Your species developed persistence hunting, correct? You would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion? That's right, Alan confirmed, pulling up historical data on his pad. Early humans could track animals for days. Our cooling system, sweating, is more efficient than most Earth mammals. We could run slower than our prey, but we could run longer. Much longer. Days. The Lumen's structure brightened with surprise. You would pursue prey for days? Sometimes, Beth said. We're endurance specialists, not sprinters. It's the same strategy that helped us spread across our planet. We're not the fastest species, but we might be the most stubborn. Warlord Rook entered the medical bay. His posture was different now, less confident, more cautious. He approached Beth slowly, watching Bitey with wary respect. My champion will recover, he said. The wounds are not critical. I'm glad, Beth said, and she sounded sincere. I have no quarrel with your venom spine. Beautiful creature, perfectly adapted to its environment. Rook was silent for a moment. Then he said, I need to understand. That creature's behavior, the complete absence of fear, is that common on your world? Beth considered the question. Fear exists on Earth, all our animals feel it. But some species express it differently. Honey badgers assess threats, but their response is almost always aggressive. Running away means starving. Fighting means possibly getting food and surviving another day. She set Bitey back in his carrier, which was now padded with soft bedding. The honey badger circled twice and lay down, still eating. Let me show you something, Beth said. She nodded to Alan, who pulled up new footage on a shared holographic display. The video showed human researchers working with wild honey badgers. The animals approached confidently, investigated equipment, stole food, and generally behaved like they owned the place. The humans moved carefully around them, respectful but not terrified. This is how we interact with them in the wild, Beth explained. We give them space. We respect their boundaries, but we don't flee from them. Because they're dangerous, yes, but they're also manageable if you understand their behavior. Another video played. This one showed a honey badger breaking into a secured enclosure, digging under concrete foundations, squeezing through impossibly small gaps. They're also remarkably intelligent, Alan added. Problem solvers. Tool users. They can figure out complex locks and barriers. There are documented cases of honey badgers in captivity working together to escape, using objects as ladders. Rook watched the videos with growing unease. Your species lives alongside creatures like this? Alongside, above, and below creatures like this, Beth corrected. She pulled up a map of Earth marking different regions. In Africa, you have honey badgers, lions, leopards, hippos, elephants, Cape buffalo, crocodiles. In Asia, tigers, bears, cobras. In Australia, everything is venomous. In the oceans, sharks, orcas, saltwater crocodiles. In South America, jaguars, anacondas, poison dart frogs. In North America, grizzly bears, wolves, mountain lions. With each name, an image appeared. Predators of every kind, in every environment. And you built cities in these environments? The Kitresh ambassador asked, his voice quiet with disbelief. We built cities everywhere, Beth said. Humans adapt. That's our primary survival trait. We learned which plants were poisonous by trial and error. We figured out which animals were too dangerous to confront and which could be hunted. We domesticated some species and avoided others. Domesticated, Rook repeated. You took predators and made them companions? Alan laughed. We domesticated wolves into dogs, took apex predators and bred them to live in our homes. We also domesticated horses, which are prey animals but can kill humans with a single kick. Cattle, which are herbivores but extremely dangerous when threatened. We even keep cats, which are obligate carnivores, as pets in our homes. The elder speaker Wynne had entered quietly during the discussion. His crystalline form reflected the medical bay's lights as he approached. Commander Harris, he said, his ancient voice thoughtful. I begin to understand why your species has adapted so well to space travel. You come from an environment where every day required survival decisions, where complacency meant death. Every species faces challenges, Beth said diplomatically. Not like yours, Wynne countered. Most spacefaring species evolved on worlds we classify as level 3 or 4 difficulty. Manageable predators, stable climates. Your Earth is classified as level 7. That classification is usually reserved for worlds we avoid colonizing altogether. He moved closer to Bitey's carrier, observing the honey badger with curiosity. Bitey stared back, unimpressed by the glowing crystalline being. This creature weighs 12 kilograms, Wynne continued. Yet it defeated a predator weighing 3,000 kilograms. Not through venom or unique abilities, but through sheer refusal to acknowledge defeat. That's accurate, Beth agreed. And you say this creature is not even in your top 20 most dangerous species? Correct. Wynne was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to address all the delegates present. I believe we need to convene an emergency council session. We must reassess our understanding of human capabilities. Over the next hour, the medical bay transformed into an impromptu conference room. Delegates gathered, some sitting, others standing or hovering according to their physiology. Beth set up her presentation equipment while Alan compiled research data. With the elder speaker's permission, Beth began, I'd like to provide context for what you witnessed today. Wynne gestured for her to continue. Beth pulled up evolutionary charts. Humans evolved over millions of years on a planet with extreme environmental variation. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, predator competition, disease all created selection pressure. The humans who survived were the ones who could adapt fastest. She showed anatomical diagrams. We're not built for any single environment. We're built for all of them. We lack fur for cold climates, so we invented clothing. We lack speed for hunting, so we invented tools. We lack natural weapons, so we created artificial ones. Your species is defined by compensation, the Chitresh observed. Our species is defined by innovation, Beth corrected gently. Every weakness became an engineering problem. Every threat became something to study and understand. She pulled up historical footage, humans building structures, humans creating fire, humans developing agriculture, humans splitting the atom, humans leaving their planet. We didn't just survive our death world, Beth said. We mastered it. And the mindset that allowed that, the refusal to accept limitation, the stubborn insistence on solving problems, that's what we brought with us to the stars. Warlord Rook spoke up. You brought a honey badger to this trial to demonstrate that mindset. I did, Beth confirmed. Because Bitey represents something important about humanity. We're not the biggest, not the strongest, not the fastest or most heavily armed, but we are perhaps the most stubborn. We see a problem and we solve it. We face a threat and we adapt to it. We encounter the impossible, and we figure out how to make it possible. She closed her presentation and looked around the room. That's what you need to understand about humans. We don't fight because we enjoy it. We fight because on our world everything fights. It's normal to us. But we prefer cooperation. We prefer problem solving. We prefer finding ways to make everyone safer and more successful. Alan added, We've shared our entire biological database with the Galactic Council. Every species on Earth, every predator, every defense mechanism. Complete transparency. Because we want you to understand us, not fear us. The Benthian delegate, her color now a contemplative blue, spoke carefully. But we should fear you. At least a little, yes. Beth smiled slightly. Respect, maybe. Fear, I hope not. We came to the stars looking for friends, not enemies. The trial of beasts is your tradition, not ours. We participated because that's what diplomacy requires. But our preference is always peaceful cooperation. She walked over to Bitey's carrier, checking on him one more time. The honey badger was asleep, finally relaxed. Besides, Beth said softly, even the most fearless creature needs rest eventually. The emergency council session began 3 hours after the trial ended. Every major species had sent representatives. The main chamber was filled beyond capacity, with observers standing in corridors and viewing through remote feeds from ships docked at the station. Elder Speaker Wynne opened the session with unusual gravity. His crystalline form seemed to glow brighter than normal, reflecting his concern. We gather to discuss the implications of today's trial, Wynne began. But more importantly, to reassess our understanding of humanity and their homeworld. Warlord Rook stood to speak. For a warrior who had seemed so confident hours earlier, he now appeared unsettled. I demand to know what modifications were made to that creature. What biological enhancements? What training protocols? Beth remained seated in the human delegation area. She didn't stand. She simply activated her datapad and projected information to the central display. No modifications, she said calmly. Here is the complete genetic sequence for Mellivera capensis, the honey badger. You can compare it against our historical records going back thousands of years. Unchanged. This is natural evolution. A Chitresh scientist stood up, his mandibles clicking rapidly. I have reviewed this data. She speaks truth. But I have also found something disturbing in the human database. He pulled up his own research. Honey badgers are classified by humans as level 5 threat creatures. Their classification system ranks threats from 1 to 10, level 1 being harmless, level 10 being immediate lethal danger. That's correct, Alan confirmed from beside Beth. Level 5 is classified as moderate threat, the Chitresh continued. Requires caution but manageable with proper protocols. I decided to investigate what humans classify as higher threats. He pulled up images. A massive bear, fur brown and thick, standing on hind legs. Level 7 grizzly bear, weight up to 360 kilograms, bite force strong enough to crush bowling balls. A human recreational object, claws that can disembowel with a single swipe. Another image, a striped cat-like creature. Level 8 Bengal tiger, ambush predator, can drag prey twice its weight up trees. Jaws strong enough to pierce skulls. The chamber was silent as more images appeared. Level 8. Saltwater crocodile. Can remain motionless for hours. Bite force of 3,700 pounds per square inch. Can death roll to tear limbs from prey? Level 9. Polar bear. Largest land carnivore on Earth. Hunts prey through ice. Can smell food from 20 miles away. Level 9. Great white shark. Ocean predator. Multiple rows of teeth. Can detect electrical fields from heartbeats. Attacks from below at high speed. The Chitresh scientist's voice grew quieter. And level 10. Humans classify several creatures as level 10. Immediate lethal threat. Box jellyfish with toxins that cause death in minutes. Mosquitoes that carry deadly diseases. Humans themselves when armed. He turned to face Beth directly. You brought a level 5 threat to a diplomatic trial. What would you have brought if you wanted to truly intimidate us? Beth stood slowly. She walked to the central floor, her footsteps echoing in the silent chamber. Honestly, she said, I probably would have brought videos instead of actual creatures, because anything level 7 or above requires extensive safety protocols. Tranquilizers, specialized transport, multiple handlers. It would have been complicated. She pulled up a video on the main screen. It showed black and white shapes moving through dark water. But if you want to know what truly dangerous looks like on Earth, watch this. The video played. A pod of orcas working together with terrifying intelligence. They created waves to wash seals off ice floes. They communicated with complex vocalizations. They taught their young sophisticated hunting techniques. Orcas, Beth narrated, also called killer whales, though they're actually dolphins. Apex predators in Earth's oceans. But here's what makes them truly dangerous. They're intelligent. They plan, they cooperate, they innovate. The video showed orcas working together to hunt, each one playing a specific role in the coordinated attack. They're not our biggest ocean predator, Beth continued. Blue whales are larger, not our most aggressive, but they might be the smartest. And intelligence combined with predatory instinct? That's true danger. A Benthian delegate stood, her color shifting to alarmed yellow. You have predators with near-sapient intelligence in your oceans? We have several species with advanced cognitive abilities, Alan answered. Orcas, dolphins, octopi, some species of whales. They use tools. They have cultural transmission of knowledge. They recognize themselves in mirrors showing self-awareness. Rook's voice cut through the murmuring. And humans swim in the same waters as these creatures? All the time, Beth said. We surf, we dive. We conduct research. We've developed protocols for safe interaction. Attacks are rare because we've learned to read their behavior and respect their space. She switched to another video, a human in diving equipment swimming calmly near a great white shark. This is a marine biologist conducting research, Beth explained. She studies shark behavior. No cage, no weapons, just knowledge and careful movement. The chamber watched in stunned silence as the human touched the shark, her movements calm and purposeful. The massive predator allowed the interaction, then swam away peacefully. You touch them? A Lumen delegate asked, her crystalline form flickering with distress. Voluntarily. How else do you study them? Beth asked reasonably. The elder speaker Wynne raised his hand for silence. Commander Harris, I must ask directly. Why are humans so comfortable with danger? Beth considered the question carefully. Because we had no choice. On Earth, danger is everywhere. In the water, on land, in the air. Even plants can be deadly. We have species that can kill with a touch. Others that attract prey, then digest them alive. Some release toxins in self-defense. She pulled up images of Earth's diverse ecosystems. We learned early that running from danger meant starvation. Hiding from danger meant isolation. So instead we learned to live with danger. To study it, to understand it, to manage it. Management, Rook repeated slowly. You manage apex predators? We do, Ellen confirmed. We have wildlife management agencies, rangers who track dangerous animals, relocation protocols for when predators get too close to human settlements. We don't exterminate unless absolutely necessary. We relocate, we adapt, we coexist. A new delegate stood representing a species humans hadn't met before. Its form was gaseous, contained in a pressure suit. I have accessed your historical records. Your species hunted megafauna to extinction. You caused significant ecological damage. We did, Beth acknowledged without defensiveness. Our early history includes many mistakes. We hunted mammoths, giant sloths, countless species to extinction. We caused ecological collapse in several regions. She paused. But we learned. We developed conservation. We created protected areas. We brought species back from the brink of extinction through breeding programs and habitat restoration. We're not perfect, but we recognize our impact and try to minimize harm. The gaseous delegate seemed to consider this. You learn from mistakes. Eventually, Beth said. Sometimes too slowly. But yes, we learn. Rook approached the center of the chamber, standing near Beth. The size difference was dramatic, but Beth didn't appear intimidated. I challenged you to this trial to prove Draylen's superiority, Rook said, to demonstrate that our species deserves expansion rights because we are strong.
I know, Beth said simply.
But I see now that I made an error in judgment. I assumed strength was measured by size and venom and killing capacity. It's a natural assumption, Beth said. Most species measure strength that way. Rook was quiet for a moment. Then he said, What would have happened if I had brought a level 10 threat creature? Would you have escalated? Beth shook her head. No. I would have asked for the trial to be postponed while we negotiated safety protocols. Because risking lives wasn't the point. The point was demonstrating that humans understand different kinds of strength. She gestured to where Bitey's carrier sat near the human delegation area. The honey badger was awake now, watching the proceedings with typical disinterest. Bitey doesn't win fights because he's biggest or strongest. He wins because he never stops trying. He evaluates the situation, finds weaknesses, and exploits them with absolute commitment. That's human strategy too. We don't rely on overwhelming force. We rely on persistence, adaptation, and refusal to accept defeat. The Chitresh scientist spoke again. I have continued researching human history. Your species has survived multiple extinction-level events. Ice ages, supervolcanic eruptions, plagues that killed millions. Yet you persisted. We did, Beth confirmed. And now you come to the stars, and you approach us with offers of friendship and cooperation, the Chitresh continued. Despite being capable of great violence. Capability doesn't mean necessity, Beth said. We're capable of violence because our world required it. But we're also capable of cooperation, innovation, art, compassion. We prefer those capabilities. Elder Wynne rose from his seat. The council must deliberate on what we have learned today. But I wish to state publicly, humanity has proven themselves worthy of respect and partnership. He turned to Rook. Warlord, do you contest this assessment? Rook looked at Beth, then at the honey badger, then at the images of Earth's various predators still displayed on screens around the chamber. No, he said finally. I do not contest it. The humans have earned their territories. They have earned respect. He faced Beth directly. I also request something. Permission to visit Earth to see this death world for myself, to understand how a species survives such conditions. Beth smiled. Permission granted. We'd be happy to arrange a cultural exchange, though I recommend starting with some of our safer locations. Maybe avoid Australia initially. Why avoid Australia? Asked a Benthian delegate. Alan laughed. Because in Australia, even the plants are venomous, the spiders hunt birds, and the jellyfish can kill you. It's basically Earth on hard mode. The chamber filled with nervous chatter. Delegates were pulling up information about Australia, finding details about box jellyfish, funnel web spiders, saltwater crocodiles, and numerous venomous snakes. Your species settled that continent voluntarily? Someone asked. Built major cities there, Beth confirmed. Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. Millions of humans live in Australia. We just teach children from a young age to check their shoes for spiders and avoid swimming during jellyfish season. The revelation that humans raise children in such environments caused another wave of disturbed murmuring. Beth let them process the information, then spoke again. Look, I understand this is a lot to absorb, but here's what I want you to take away from today. Humans are survivors. We come from a hard world, but that hasn't made us cruel or aggressive by nature. It's made us adaptable, resilient, and creative. We solve problems. That's our strength. She walked back toward her delegation area, then turned for one final statement. And we'd rather solve problems with you than against you. 6 months passed since the trial. The footage had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Every species with access to interstellar communication had seen the honey badger defeat the venom spine. The images were impossible to forget. A small furry creature, barely larger than a house cat, taking down a massive serpent through pure determination. Diplomatic relationships shifted in the aftermath. Species that had dismissed humanity as newcomers suddenly requested formal meetings, trade agreements multiplied, research partnerships formed. The humans from the death world became simultaneously the most feared and most sought-after allies in the galaxy. Beth Harris stood in the observation lounge of Earth's newest diplomatic vessel. Watching the blue-green marble of her homeworld rotate slowly below, she had been promoted to ambassador at large, responsible for managing humanity's expanding galactic relationships. The responsibility was enormous, but she approached it with the same calm pragmatism she brought to everything. Alan entered the lounge, carrying 2 containers of coffee. He handed one to Beth. The Draylen delegation just docked, he said. Warlord Rook and his cultural exchange group. 12 Draylen officials, all wanting to see Earth. How do they seem? Beth asked, accepting the coffee gratefully. Nervous, Alan admitted. One of them asked if we could guarantee their safety. Beth laughed. Did you tell them the truth? I said we'd do our best, which is all we can promise on Earth. The cultural exchange had taken months to arrange. Multiple species had requested to visit Earth, but the logistics were complicated. Earth's environment was dangerous to species from stable worlds. The atmospheric pressure, the gravity, the microbial life, everything required careful consideration. The Draylen were first because Rook had insisted. The Warlord wanted to understand the world that produced creatures like honey badgers. He needed to see it for himself. Beth and Alan met the Draylen delegation in the arrivals terminal. Rook looked as imposing as ever, his red scales polished, his posture military perfect. But his yellow eyes showed something new. Uncertainty. Ambassador Harris, Rook said formally, we accept your hospitality and thank you for allowing this visit. Welcome to Earth, Beth replied warmly. We've prepared accommodations at a facility in South Africa. It's where I used to work, actually. A wildlife rehabilitation and research center. The Draylen exchanged glances. One of them, a scientist named Grath, spoke up. We will be safe at this location? As safe as anywhere on Earth, Beth said honestly. The facility has security protocols, trained staff, medical facilities. But I won't lie to you. This is Earth. There are risks. Snakes in the grass, spiders in corners, large predators in the surrounding area. We'll teach you to recognize warnings and respond appropriately. Grath's scales paled slightly. Large predators. We're going to a region with lions, leopards, elephants, rhinos, hippos, and Cape buffalo, Alan explained, consulting his datapad. All are managed but wild. The facility is fenced, but animals occasionally find ways through. Occasionally? Another Draylen asked weakly. Beth led them to a transport vehicle specially modified to accommodate Draylen physiology. As they traveled from the spaceport toward the facility, she provided commentary. That's Johannesburg, she said, pointing to a sprawling city, population around 6 million, one of our major urban centers. The Draylen stared at the massive human settlement, trying to reconcile the idea of millions living in death-world conditions. You build cities this large? Rook asked. With all the predators and dangers? We build cities everywhere, Beth said. In deserts, on mountains, in tropical regions, in Arctic zones. Humans adapt. We modify the environment and ourselves to survive wherever we go. The landscape changed as they traveled, urban giving way to rural, then to the vast African savanna. Golden grass stretched to the horizon, dotted with acacia trees. In the distance, a herd of animals moved slowly. Stop the vehicle, Rook commanded suddenly. Beth signaled the driver. The transport slowed to a halt. Rook stared out at the herd. Those creatures, he said quietly. Elephants. Yes, Beth confirmed. African bush elephants. About 60 individuals in that herd. They're enormous. Adults can weigh over 6 tons, Alan provided. They're herbivores, but extremely dangerous when threatened. More humans are killed by elephants than by lions in this region. Herbivores kill humans? Grath asked in disbelief. Many animals kill humans, Beth said. Hippos are particularly dangerous. They look slow and peaceful, but are incredibly aggressive and fast in water. Cape buffalo kill more humans than almost any other large animal. Even zebras are dangerous. They bite and kick with tremendous force. As if on cue, something moved in the grass near the transport. A spotted shape, low and powerful. Leopard, Alan said calmly. She's hunting. See how she moves? The leopard crept toward unsuspecting prey, a small antelope grazing some distance away. The Draylen watched in silent fascination as the predator demonstrated perfect stalking technique. She'll get close enough, then sprint, Beth narrated softly. Leopards are ambush predators, incredibly strong for their size. They can drag prey heavier than themselves up into trees. The leopard struck. The attack lasted seconds. The antelope barely had time to react before powerful jaws found its throat. Efficient, Rook observed, his warrior's mind appreciating the skill. Nature on Earth doesn't waste energy, Beth said. Everything that survives does so because it's excellent at surviving. The predators are efficient killers. The prey are efficient at escaping. It's constant evolutionary pressure. They reached the facility as the sun began setting. The compound was large, surrounded by reinforced fencing with additional security measures. Buildings were sturdy, designed to withstand both weather and occasional wildlife intrusions. The director of the facility, a weathered woman named Dr. Rivers, greeted them warmly. Welcome, welcome. We've prepared quarters for you in the main building. Climate-controlled, secure. You'll be comfortable. That night, after the Draylen settled into their accommodations, Beth organized a briefing session. The facility's staff presented information about local wildlife, safety protocols, and what to expect during their stay. Rule 1, Dr. Rivers said firmly. Never go outside alone. Always have a human guide. Rule 2, if a guide tells you to stop moving, freeze immediately. Rule 3, respect all wildlife. Keep distance. No direct interaction unless supervised. The Draylen took careful notes, treating the briefing like a military tactical session. Tomorrow, Dr. Rivers continued, we'll start with the rehabilitation enclosures. You'll see various species being treated for injuries or illness. Then we'll do a guided tour of the reserve. You'll observe predators in their natural habitat from safe vehicles. Safe vehicles? Grath questioned. Reinforced. Elevated. Designed specifically for wildlife observation, Rivers assured him. The next morning began early. Beth led the Draylen group to the rehabilitation area. The first enclosure housed a young elephant recovering from a leg injury caused by a poacher's snare. Poachers? Rook asked. Humans who hunt illegally for profit, Beth explained, her voice hard. We combat poaching aggressively, but it remains a problem. This young female was rescued 2 months ago. She's healing well and will be released soon. The elephant watched them with intelligent eyes, her trunk moving curiously. The next enclosure contained something that made the Draylen step back instinctively. A large spotted cat with powerful shoulders and jaws. Leopard, Beth said. Different individual from the one we saw yesterday. This male was injured fighting another male over territory. He'll recover fully. The leopard paced his enclosure, watching the aliens with predatory focus. He sees us as prey? One Draylen asked nervously. He sees you as unknown, Beth corrected. Potentially dangerous or potentially prey. He's evaluating, making decisions. That's what makes Earth predators so dangerous, they think. Then they reached a smaller enclosure and Beth smiled. Here's someone you've met before. Bitey sat in the sun grooming himself. When he saw Beth, he made that characteristic chattering sound and waddled to the fence. Your champion, Rook said, approaching carefully. He lives here? This is his retirement home, Beth said. After the trial, I brought him back to Earth. He has everything he needs here. Food, space, enrichment activities. And occasionally he gets to meet visitors. She produced a food container and Bitey accepted treats through the fence with surprising gentleness. May I? Rook asked, indicating the food. Beth handed him some pieces. Rook extended his scaled hand slowly. Bitey took the food casually, unbothered by the alien offering it. He shows no fear, Rook observed. Honey badgers don't really do fear, Beth said. Caution sometimes. Annoyance frequently. But not fear as you understand it. The group spent time observing Bitey, watching him dig, play with enrichment puzzles, and generally behave like the stubborn, intelligent creature he was. Then came the Savannah tour. The specially modified vehicles could seat the entire group with human guides. Dr. Rivers drove, with Beth providing commentary. There, Beth pointed. A pride of lions rested under an acacia tree. 5 adult females, 2 males, several cubs. Apex predators, Rook said. Absolutely, Beth agreed. Lions are cooperative hunters. The females do most of the hunting, working together to bring down prey much larger than themselves. The males defend the pride's territory. One male lion raised his head and looked directly at their vehicle. Even from a distance, his golden eyes were intense. He's magnificent, Grath breathed. He's also potentially lethal, Dr. Rivers added. Male lions can weigh over 200 kilograms. Their bite force is immense. Those claws are 10 centimeters long. But from this vehicle, with proper protocol, we're safe. They encountered more species throughout the day. A crash of rhinos, their prehistoric appearance making them seem like living fossils. A journey of giraffes, their impossible necks defying logic. A herd of buffalo, their massive horns and collective defensive behavior making them formidable. But it was the hippos that truly unsettled the Dralin. The facility's reserve included a section of river where hippos lived. The vehicle stopped at a safe overlook, and Dr. Rivers pointed out the massive shapes partially submerged in the water. Hippos, she said, possibly the most dangerous large animal in Africa. They're territorial, aggressive, and can run at speeds of 30 kilometers per hour on land despite weighing over 1,500 kilograms. As they watched, 2 hippos engaged in a territorial dispute. The water exploded with violence. Massive jaws opened, showing enormous teeth. The sound of their bellowing carried across the reserve. Those jaws can bite a crocodile in half, Beth said. Hippos kill more humans annually than lions, leopards, and rhinos combined. And you swim in the same waters? Rook asked, though by now he knew the answer. We do, Beth confirmed. But with awareness and respect. We study their behavior. We learn their patterns. We know when and where it's relatively safe. That evening, as the sun set over the African savanna, Beth organized a gathering on the facility's observation deck. The Dralin stood at the railing, watching the landscape transform in the dying light. Animals moved through the golden grass. Predators beginning their night hunts. Prey animals forming defensive groups, the eternal dance of survival playing out as it had for millions of years. Rook stood beside Beth, silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. I understand now, he said quietly. Why humans are the way you are. What do you understand? Beth asked. You're not aggressive because you're violent. You're capable because you had to be. Every day on this world is a test. Every moment requires awareness. You develop not just strength but adaptability, not just weapons but wisdom. He gestured at the savannah. The Dralin homeworld has predators, but they're manageable, predictable. Our civilization developed without constant existential threat. We became strong because we could, not because we must. Every species has its path, Beth said diplomatically. But some paths forge different outcomes, Rook continued. You brought a honey badger to our trial not to mock us. You brought him to show us that on Earth, even medium-level threats require this much tenacity, that everything on your world is exceptional by galactic standards. Beth nodded slowly. That's part of it. And the message was received, Rook said. The Dralin Empire has rescinded our territorial expansion plans. We're focusing instead on cooperation, on learning from species like yours who survived through adaptation rather than domination. He turned to face her directly. I came here expecting to confirm my prejudices. That Death World species were savage and primitive. Instead, I find sophisticated people who live in harmony with conditions that would kill most civilized species. We're not in complete harmony, Beth said honestly. We still have conflicts with wildlife. Still make mistakes. Still cause ecological damage sometimes, but we try to do better. That's the difference, Rook said. You try. You improve. You learn. That's human strength. The following weeks of the cultural exchange revealed more. The Draylen observed human children learning about wildlife in educational programs. They watched researchers conducting field studies in dangerous conditions with methodical safety protocols. They saw injured animals being treated with compassion and care. They also attended a demonstration at a local school, where human children as young as 8 years old learned to identify dangerous spiders, snakes, and other hazards. The children treated this education casually, like learning mathematics or reading. You teach children about lethal threats? Grath asked, disturbed. The teacher, a cheerful woman named Mrs. Chen, laughed. Of course. They need to know. Knowledge keeps them safe. See, this is a puff adder, very venomous. The children learn to recognize it and give it space. An 8-year-old raised her hand. Mrs. Chen, is it true that honey badgers eat snakes? It is, Mrs. Chen confirmed. Honey badgers can kill and eat even venomous snakes. Cool, the child said, returning to her drawing of various snake species. The casual acceptance of danger, the integration of hazard awareness into childhood education, the normalization of living alongside creatures that could kill. All of this painted a picture of humanity that the Draylen had never imagined. On the final day of the exchange, Rook requested a private conversation with Beth. They walked through the facility grounds, following safe paths, accompanied by a guide carrying deterrent equipment. I have a question, Rook said. A personal one. Go ahead, Beth encouraged. You chose to leave Earth to work in space, to represent your species among the stars, but you brought Bitey with you and you clearly love this world. Why leave? Beth considered the question carefully. Because Earth taught me something important. The most dangerous environment can also be the most beautiful. The greatest challenges produce the strongest bonds. I left because I wanted to share that perspective. To show other species that different isn't necessarily bad, hard isn't necessarily hostile. She gestured at the savannah stretching before them. Earth made us survivors, but it also made us curious, compassionate, and creative. We learned to look at a lion and see not just danger but beauty. To see a spider and appreciate its role in the ecosystem. To see the world's harshness and respond with science and cooperation. You want to bring that perspective to the galaxy, Rook said. I want to be part of a galaxy where different perspectives are valued, Beth corrected. Where Death World species and Garden World species can learn from each other. Where strength means more than military might. Rook was quiet for a moment. Then he said, the Draylen Empire would like to propose a formal alliance with humanity. Not just a non-aggression pact. A true partnership. Cultural exchange. Technology sharing. Mutual defense, Beth smiled. We would welcome that discussion. Though it will need to go through proper diplomatic channels. Of course, Rook agreed. But I wanted you to know first. Because you changed everything 6 months ago. Not with threats or violence. With a small creature who refused to give up. They returned to the facility as the sun set again. The Draylen would depart the next day, returning to their empire with new understanding and respect. That night, Beth visited Bitey's enclosure one final